Welcome to Two Gents, where two seasoned gents take on the hard truths of life, success, and responsibility. In a world where the rules don't bend for us, these gents believe in doing the work, owning the struggle, and inspiring others to take action. So, pull up a chair.
Good afternoon. This is Ron Spikes. I'm sitting here and sit in your own spaces, and I can tell you that I take up to the very last minute to get things ready, to get things in this place where it's at right now. My camera is directly in front of me, and so I find myself looking in the screen to make sure that my colors are right and everything is right around me. Welcome to Just Real Talk for Black People. And while you listen to it, I'm just asking you to sit in your own space. You know, before I get into this show today, I want to share something with you. I know most of y'all think that y'all holier than thou. Most of my family has problems that they go through on a daily basis, and they ask themselves, how can I make it? How can I make it? You know, I had the opportunity to talk to one of my friends in text messaging today. Hadn't heard from him in a long time. I know they've been going through some things. So I just want to tell you, just when you think that your life is at its worst, just when you think that things are not where they should be, just when you think you're being tested more than anybody else, let me share a story with you. That friend that I'm talking about, she went through some things that I don't know if I would have survived. Just think about this for a minute. You know ahead of time that your best friend, one of the people that you admire in life, is passing. You're trying to spend as much time with them as you possibly can, because you know their time is limited. And then you're going through a personal situation that you're dealing with at the same time this is going on. You get news that your friend passed away. And that news still continues to go on. You get news that your dad has a short amount of time to live by just going to the hospital. I just want to lay this weight on you so you can understand. And it's the reason why I'm going somewhere here with this. Your dad has just found that he has a short time to live. So your other friend didn't truly pass away yet, but you're going through both of these things at the same time. One passes, which was a friend. Right behind that, not too far along after then, her father passes. Then when you think you got it right, you start realizing that there's some other problems that's going on with your mother. You end up losing your mother. 3 deaths back to back. Some personal problems that you're dealing with. and you structure your life to move on. Might not seem like much to most of y'all, but let me share something with you. Whenever you're going through something, and as I did with them, I encourage them to stand in the mirror and tell them, I'm still here. Tell yourself, I'm still here. Fall down on your knees and pray. Because as I listened and that an individual finally got in touch with me this morning for the first time in a long time, I just want to get on here and tell you that you don't know what you're able to go through unless you've been there. And if you find yourself in a place where you're complaining, or that you can't make it, or that you're worried about something, or you worried about your pride, or you worried about somebody stepping on your toes, or you worried about something that somebody said, think about it. It's people going through stuff every single day that you have not went through. But you and your big self, you and your almighty self, you can't be bumped into. You can't be called out of your name. Nothing can interfere with where you're going. A person can't even cut you off on the freeway by accident, and you have to respond. I'm trying to make you walk in somebody else's shoes because that leads into where I'm going with this show. Because if we don't learn how to pray, get up and accept where we're at, and know that we're going to continue to go on, we're going to become our own detriment. What does that say up above me? Just real talk for Black people. And you say, well, how does this tie in? You know, Black people carry a different burden than everybody else. That's the name of the show. Why Black people carry a different burden. They carry a different burden just because they're Black and their skin color, and so much has been stacked against them. The deck is not there. But in life, when the stack is against you, you can choose to give up if you want to, or you can choose to fight on, or you can choose to text a friend back like my friend did today in their own space. See, I kept texting them regardless. I want them to have encouragement that when they get up, knowing that tomorrow, even if they don't respond to you, don't hold them accountable. Don't say, I always do this, I do that. You're expecting a result back. That means that you didn't do it sincerely. They may be on their deathbed and can't text you back. And the next thing that you get is an obituary about them, about their funeral or something like that. Somebody manages to get in touch with you before their death, and then you feeling guilty. Let me get into the show, because I could go on that one for a while. But I just want to tell you, my people, whenever you think you're going through something that's too much, it's another person out there going through just a little bit more. It's a mother out there trying to take care of a handicapped child, maintaining the job, and then still trying to take care of that handicapped child. What if she got more kids that she have to attend to? She can't afford to spend all of her time with that one child. Our father and the mother. Let me just say this. The sun doesn't rise and set with you wherever you go. And for some of y'all who didn't learn who God was until later on in life, somebody prayed for you, whether it was a grandmother, a great-grandmother, or somebody down the line prayed for you until you could pray for yourself. And you realize that there's a God to carry you over. I got to get off this to get in my podcast. And I'm going to carry the same rhythm and cadence into it, because sometimes we need to understand that we wear a banner representing a group of people They're proud. That are people that came from somewhere to get where they're going. At some point, not only do we need to teach our kids, but we need to remind ourselves as adults. We represent a group of people that's trying to utilize the same thing that you're utilizing to get from where they're at. To take a step up. But if you're on that first step and you making all the rest of us look bad, or a situation gets so how can I say it? Gets so big to you that you got to prove to other people just because somebody's sitting around you with eyes on you. No, it's not about that. Sometimes we have to digress and think about where we're at. Because now when you look at what's happening across the country, they're taking away more than they're giving from people that look like us. Our young athletes just got to a point where they starting to get some type of money for the efforts that they put in while they was in college. And they have to put in some effort, even in college, get their work in, still go to practices and create the social media behind them to make money. And as they do this, if we're going to continue to mess it up for them to have the ability to do it, the NAACP is already saying that they want to control their money. We're going to give them an excuse, that's what it is, an excuse, because we can't maintain where we at to control their money. Because too many of them going to say, you know what? You see how they're acting with their money? Oh, man, we need to take control of that. You know, maybe something going on. They don't need that money. They need to go back into the system where they played football like they was in slavery in college. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't take an extra job. You can't do any of that. But now that our young athletes are getting the opportunity to gather all of that, it even goes, let me just step back a minute. It even goes back to the high school level. These people are creating pages and having followers come to them in high school where they're getting paid. Do you realize that some of those guys are getting paid more than the last man on any professional bench? Because by the time a player that's, let me just break this down so you can understand. By the time a player gets his check out of $1 million check, he might just be taking home about $200,000 because, see, every city that you're looking at that he shows up on TV playing in, they tax him like he have an 8-hour job there. From the top to the bottom of the team, they're taxed in each city that they go to. So if you want to work on something to help people, and I'll say people, I almost say black people, but they work on something to help people in sports do better, you need to come up with something to say if they don't have an 8-hour job in that city, that you can't tax them for just passing through. But if they're working 8 hours within that city, they got tax. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But just think about that tax. New York tax is higher, probably higher than anybody else's taxes. California taxes are higher. We don't have a state tax when they come here. But if those guys show up in that state with that uniform on, that NBA uniform on, they pay a tax there, and then they got to pay a federal tax. And then another state tax if they're in the state with a state tax. So by the time you add all that up, and you, as a parent, as uncle, as auntie, as anybody else out there, got your hand out when you see that guy walk across that stage for that $1 million, you never ask him, And then the other part of the story that goes in between that, what if they went out and borrowed $1 million on the money that they was going to get ahead of time so they could show up with them suits, that jewelry, and them shoes and everything else on stage, and the car that took them there. So by the time they started getting their payments in, then they got them other people out there with their hands out. Not understanding the system. Only thing they seen was the zeros and the commissioner give them a hug, shake their hand or whatever. So I'm telling you this because I'm going to tie this all back, because we have a burden as Black parents to protect the image so our kids can continue getting paid and not giving anybody an excuse to take it away in more ways than one. And I'm going to break it down. Let's get into it. The moment that made me stop to think was a young man by the name of Mikey Williams. And the Karmelo Anthony case that's out there, murder case. Let me just put it in perspective for you. Two young people. One was in high school making more money than anybody else, was doing a whole bunch more with his image, gonna take it to the next level, but he ended up ruining that by getting a gun case. And you say, well, that don't have nothing to do with me. That don't have nothing to do with my child. That don't have nothing to do with what's going on. Yes, it does, because what it does is present an image of a Black person out of control. And if you don't think they take that narrative a little bit further, there's something wrong with you, because anytime that you're making money and you make them look bad, or you make yourself look bad, it's worse when you make yourself look bad if we're only talking to Black people. But it's worse when you make yourself look bad and Black people when it comes to them. Because then they start using you, making examples of people. Then they start taking away stuff where you can't do what you did. Well, the next person can't take that same step that you just got into, and they may be more talented than what you are. See, when we go out there and we present this image of being Black and proud, we need to present it knowing that we got to reserve a place for the person behind us to come and step. Because if you're taking it away, they had already made a judgment. So you already knocked them down one step where they ain't going to even get the same privilege as you. Everybody was talking about this guy named Mikey Williams. He was a high school phenom. The kid with national attention. He had more attention than some of the NBA players' sons that was playing basketball. He had sneaker deals before he even had a diploma. Wouldn't you like your kid to be like that? Don't you think that your kid could benefit from that as a normal Black person that's going to these games, that's taking the kids to AAU and showing up and not getting paid, but it's costing them money to be on a team with this particular person. And he's representing a whole group of people that's in struggle throughout the whole lifetime. Then he found himself facing felony gun charges after alteration. Listen to what I'm about to say. At his California home, high school, going to college, tennis shoe deals, able to buy his own house. What did it cost him? He avoided prison. He took a plea deal. He transferred to UFC. He's trying to rebuild something that he already had in place. He's trying to build something that they won't offer to the next person, or that the next person might not get that opportunity because they're going to create laws to change it. What if they just took his ability along and they just changed the law to reflect something like, you know, high school kids can't make money again. They can't make money till they get to the college level. We can't pay them anything till they get to the college level. Who has that affected? Most of the good athletes, most, not all, some, it's been some that's been reversed. I can't think of the running back out of San Francisco. That white boy is bad. I ain't taking nothing away from him. But I'm just saying that majority of it affects us because we fill those positions. We just got the ability to fill a quarterback position. All our life we've been fulfilling the line positions. All our life we had exceptional running backs. All our life we had exceptional wide receivers and slots or whatever you want to call them. The tight ends, the most agilic positions on the team. I want to say that because I might have butchered that word, but don't hold that against me. And then here's the other part. Now, I just told you about him. He's starting to rebuild. He's not at that position where he was. But that moment didn't just fall on him. It didn't fall on a sports headline. That was the responsibility that he had, that he carried. And if he had somebody in his life that was influencing him, now don't take this the wrong way. Because what happens when young people get money, all of a sudden they don't want to listen to nobody. They don't want to listen to their parents, but they end up in this position. But then it becomes a reflection of somebody saying, you know what? Where was his parents? How come his parents didn't guide him? How come his parents didn't do that? Well, sometimes when you make money and you're not in the right position, this kind of stuff happens. And it's on that child. It's not on that parent because y'all gave him the ability to make that money. But that parent is doing the best that they can. Here's something that I'm going to tie back to what I'm saying today. Black people have a higher burden of responsibility to other people that they don't even know, that they don't even come into contact with, but trying to get where your child is. Right here in Texas, we watched something even heavier unfold. The Karmelo Anthony case. And not the Karmelo Anthony, the NBA star. I know he got more publicity than any time doing that because people thought that this guy was tied to him. I did. I'm not going to lie. When I first heard it, I gravitated to it. But the Karmelo with a K, a 19-year-old from Cullen County, on June 9, 2026, a jury convicted him of murder and sentenced him to 35 years in prison for a fatal stabbing of a 17-year-old. His name was Austin Metcalf. The bad part about this wasn't on the street corner. This wasn't from a late night party. This wasn't even a gang situation. It happened at a high school track meet at Memorial High School in Frisco, Texas, April the 2nd, 2025. The only things you can attribute it to: a rain delay, 2 rival schools, a tent, and a disagreement that it didn't end with words, but instead ended with a fight. I want you to let that digest in. Somebody's son didn't go home because he attended a track meet. Somebody's son died at a track meet. And you say, well, how does that tie back? For one thing, don't get it twisted. You think Karmelo Anthony haven't had to answer questions about this? And he probably didn't know anything that was going on. But he had to learn about it because it affected his name, the spelling of his name. What happened affected his name and probably his legacy because of the name. When you say Karmelo Anthony, you're thinking about the basketball player. That shows you about reputation and the higher standard that we have to hold ourselves accountable for. Now, let me tell you how we got here. Witnesses say that Karmelo in a rival team's tent. Now, just think about this. Sports stadium, a tent set up. Maybe their school could afford a tent and the other school, wherever he came from, didn't have a tent. But he went over there to get out of the rain or whatever was going on, the heat or whatever. I don't know the situation, but I'm just saying. They asked him to leave. Get from up under their tent. See, I have to tie this back to something that we can all relate to. See, when that police put on his lights and he's behind you, and the only thing that he wants you to pull you over so you can write a ticket, but you continue to drive. I didn't say don't find no lights, but I say continue to drive and drive away and race away and thinking that it ain't no repercussions to that. Let me get back because I'm going to get upset. When we get back to this rival's tent, that was a tent that they set up. If you don't do anything other than when you go in there and say, hey, man, do y'all have a problem with me coming up under here to get out of the sun or whatever? If they say yes, you leave. But if you never give them an opportunity to respond to you, now that's on you. You don't just take nobody's property and use it any kind of way you want to. You may call it shade, but somebody somewhere bought whatever shade or whatever tent, whatever he was trying to come up under, they bought it. So he refused to leave. And then the bigger problem, things escalated. So when they arguing with you, instead of you walking away, thinking about your whole life ahead of you, and you might say he was only, how many years old? Let me look at this. I want to make sure I get 17 years old. How can you expect the same decision that made him put that knife in his bag is the same decision that could have made him walk away? Oh, it might be like them brothers from the airplane. You know, I don't look behind me. I go forward. It might be one of those situations because they don't have a history to show them what happens when they pull out a knife or a gun at a school, at a track meet. You mean to tell me that all of that doesn't register because you don't look back? You just go forward? Is that where we at? Is that where we at? I'm just asking the question, trying to see how much time I got left. He pulled out the knife and stabbed Austin Metcalf in the chest, piercing his heart. 17 years old, gone. Two people. One we'll never see again. The other one, we may not see again either. But what a split-second decision that you make can cost you. What if he was just took his bag and went found him a seat? If they was in a whole stadium, what if he was just looked around him and just walked away? But see, we get into telling the story or hearing the outcome of 35 years, and then we say, oh no, that's too much. He was just in a heated moment. Well, that heated moment costs you. It costs the next person that may come up and need some shade or something from a tent. It puts y'all separate apart across the stadium, and they're gonna start using tape to rope it off so they don't have a problem when that didn't exist before you took your action that you did. At the trial, they argued that it was self-defense. A jury deliberated for 3 hours and rejected it. How can it be self-defense when you're in their territory? You step onto their area and they ask you to leave, and there's witnesses there, and then you go into your bag and you pull out a knife and you stab a person, and you expect the jury to go beyond that and say, hey, no, you're only 17 years old. But if you hear it in the media, they gave him too much. What about that teen that lost his life? And see, that's where you get to. Yeah, I'm talking to black people, but I want to tell you something that's a little bit different. We can't lose a life, red, blue, white, purple, any color that's out there, yellow, whatever color that you want to go to, out of stupidity. This ain't have nothing to do with youth. This is stupidity. 17 years old. If it would be my child, I would hold him accountable for the actions that he did. My own child. Grow up something. We got to grow up as people. As black people, we definitely need to use this as an example to show us how not to act in public. And what you should take from this lesson is you should go to your child that if they run in sports, basketball, or playing football or anything like that, you should take this lesson and tell them, use it as a lesson learned to step away. Use it as a lesson learned to take an extra step. Use it as a lesson learned as if it was your child that you will never see again because of a tent at a sporting event. But if you're in an airplane and you're going forward, that's yesterday's news. So you're not worried about it. That's what I'm saying, because when those young men told me that they're in the airplane going forward, what if it was their child? And they could have just explained to him, look, son, when you're out there at these track meets, I'm not there, I'm at work. Daughter, when you're out there at them track meets or them cheerleader practices or them cheerleader competitions or whatever you at, volleyball lessons, I want to tell you something. Let this be an example. Just walk away. I love you too much to have to either see you in jail or buried. That's the lesson that we have to start teaching our kids. We have a bigger burden than what we're letting on to. And this is not this should serve as a life lesson. This part right here. But the other part should serve as a lesson to have people follow behind you and grow. But underneath all that noise, the truth that we can't ignore. 2 young men, 2 different situations, 2 different states, 2 different outcomes, one common thread. A moment of anger, a moment of impulse, a moment of ego can change your entire life. Our kids need to understand that. Our kids need to understand that. That needs to serve as an example for any parent that has a kid in sports to tell them, I love you enough to have you come home. You should love them enough to tell them that if you got to play a sport that builds up your ego that much, son, I need you to stay at home. Daughter, I need you to stay at home. Because I love you enough that I want you around me. Your ego shouldn't be that big. Your anger shouldn't be that easy. Your impulse should be to, hey, let me think about my daddy and my mom. I want to go home and see my brother and my little sister. I want to go home and see them. I don't want to spend the night in jail. I don't want to spend one night away from them. Son, you need to understand that that's the way life is. You know, I like to relate things back to other situations. And this is one of the situations. I talked with my son the other night. I'm not bragging. I'm not boasting. I'm proud of my son for where he's at. And it has nothing to do with this conversation of sports. My son's in China. He went to China on a business meeting. Here's what I told him. I say, son, I say, remember, you're in a different country. Remember that them tanks and airplanes ain't coming to get you if you get in trouble over there. I say, whatever you see, you know that somebody's following you. You know that you're standing out. You know that you're in a different environment. You know that you're in an environment where communism is in place. And the biggest thing about communism is other people report on other people. This was before video cameras and all the rest of the stuff that we exposed to. They will tell on you because it makes them look good. That's an environment that they grew up in. And I'm just telling you, and I told him, and he said, Daddy, he said, you know what? He said, this is the safest country I ever been in. He said, I feel safe out here. I can get out and go to places at night. He said, I feel safe. I said, just don't get comfortable, son. Just don't get comfortable. I'm going to move on from this. Because when you look at people, when you look at Mikey Williams, a young man with the world in front of him, facing felony gun charges or gone through that, then you look at Karmelo Anthony, a 19-year-old now sentenced to 35 years in prison, and they calling it too much for a stabbing of a 17-year-old at a track meet. And it still points back to that one story. Impulse, emotion, and ego. Not looking at the consequences. Nobody pointing out the consequences of your action. And here's the part that we don't want to talk about. This is the part that's going to get a lot of you mad. Because as we talk about those two examples, there's many more examples out there, but we talked about them two so I could tie back to this. Where do you think those kids learned that behavior? By themselves? I'm just going to let that sit for a minute because that part needs to marinate. I'm going to say that again. Where do you think them kids learned that behavior? By themselves? I'm through pointing at the youth right now because I'm going to go another direction. And it's going back to the title, which is why Black parents carry a different burden. Because while we point at our youth, can't give them all the blame. Look at the adults that's attending those games. Look at the adults that's getting in fights. Look at the adults that can't sit in their seat to allow a coach or police on the floor to handle a situation with their child in it. You can always go back and clean it up, but if both of y'all end up locked up, who is that going to serve? I got to go. No, you don't. No, you don't, because you entrusted that coach to protect your child. That coach is going to be the first one to run out on that floor. He ain't going to jail because he's protecting your child, but you're going to get out there in your emotions and your ego, and you ain't going to be able to go to work tomorrow because you're going to be in jail. See, I told you I was going to step on some toes today. Your child gonna be all right. They're gonna take care of your child. If anything, even on the football field or in a basketball field or on the volleyball court or anywhere, they ain't got no weapons with them there on the court. But by the time you get your ego and emotions and locked into it, those people that's coming to protect, well, you're protecting your child, they're coming to protect their child too. But y'all coming from a perspective of, I got this with me. I'm just going to continue to go on. In Mesa, I'm going to give you examples. In Mesa, Arizona, 70 officers breaking up a youth football brawl. Keep on going, Ron. Don't stop there. Staten Island, 2 mothers throwing punches at a 6th grade basketball game. What did that have to do with the game? Ron, just keep on going, because they don't believe it. Central Valley, a grown man coach runs across the field and punches a child. Oh, no, you don't believe that. Let me just keep on going. Because I'm going to point it out to something else that's more dangerous than anything that we've been talking about so far. In Texas, coaches push so hard in a practice that 20 end up in the hospital. See, I'm going to let that marinate because I need to explain this to you so you can understand. See, you're going to get mad at me, but I don't care. See, when your child is about 4'5" and he weighs about 300 pounds, he has some type of medical condition. And you taking him out to learn how to play football, thinking that you're going to lose his weight. And this coach ain't never had an ounce of training, don't know CPR, don't know anything, thinking that he's a person of control because maybe his son is on the team. Just one of them. But what if he just volunteered to do this job? Out of the goodness of his heart. You bring your 200-pound son that's 4'5" out there, ain't never worked out a day in his life, and he sits there and play game pedals and all the rest of that. What if he has complications like asthma? What if he has something that's going on in his body that's just starting to materialize, but that this incompetent coach that's out there that you take him to never had any of the training to save his life, but you got him out there in the heat, in the rain, running up and down like he's a normal child. He's not normal. The bigger part of that is coaching. Most of the high school coaches, and I'm not holding them up at a higher standard, but I'm at least saying that if your child had complications wherever they're at, he's going to know how to do CPR. He's going to know where to run to get the pedals to get your child's heart back working. And you as a parent shouldn't stand there and let nobody take your child through that. You know in your mind. I know I'm getting upset. I'm getting upset because too many times when we want to be on the other side of the story, we want to sue that person for everything that they did, and they only volunteer. We want to sue that person because they had a father or a cousin of one of the people that was on the team helping them coach the team while he was over there helping somebody else. And then this child started having complications on the other side because it's not qualified people on the field. You reliving your life through that child, and that child has complications that could cost his life while you're out there. And too many times I see us, I say us as Black people, jump in that role without no experience, jump in that role because we want to relive our football experience, jump in that role because we see it as a way to volunteer back. But that volunteer back could cost you your livelihood or even somebody's life. And even if you had the experience, you should be grown enough to tell whoever's coming out there, if I didn't bring you out here, don't come out here and help me. Because I'm responsible for these kids. I'm going to rest there because that's a story for another day. But you see how serious it can become when you have people volunteer to do jobs because they want to live out their football dreams at the expense of your child possibly losing their life. I'm going to move on. Told you it was going to be some people get mad at me today. Baytown Pee Wee coach fires a gun at a youth event. What's the name of this title? I got to look again. Black parents, we carry a different burden. Even as coaches that you volunteer for, you carry a burden, but then most of them ego so big that they don't realize the consequences that could follow them the rest of their life. I'm going to keep on. And we wonder how come our kids don't know how to handle conflict. We wonder how come they escalate instead of de-escalating. We wonder how come they reach for weapons, fists, or rage. Because they got a learned behavior from who? Some things you got to talk about, and you just got to be truthful with them. And this is one of those moments. I told you, this is called sit in your space. I'm just giving you something to think about while you sit in your space. So when you go out there to the next football program or something like that, maybe instead of sitting in your car in the air conditioning, looking across the field, you're going to go up to the coach and say, Coach, you know what? My son has a condition. I brought him out here to get in shape. I appreciate what you're doing, but could you just realize that his condition is different than everybody else on this field? Take that time. Because when that child gets up and leave that field, you want him to come home. And it's been instances where a child left that field in the condition that he was in and got home and later had complications that started on that field, start to arrive. All right. I'm going to do that show. I got to do it because it's something about that that's just getting up under my skin. Whew. But the simple truth is, kids get intimidated by what they see. Kids absorb what's around them. Kids become the environments we create. So when a teenager pulls a gun, or a teenager pulls a knife, or a teenager throws away his future in a moment of anger, we have to stop pretending. This came out of nowhere. Because the same lack of control that we see in youth sports, parents, that same aggression, that same ego, that same inability to walk away, it's that same spirit that shows up in these tragedies. It isn't just a youth problem no more. It's a parent problem, a community problem, a culture problem. And I'm not talking about anybody else's culture but ours, because what are we here to do? Just real talk for Black people. I'm not trying to save the world. I'm trying to save a culture of people that seem like the coach is doing the right thing. He's volunteering, but if it's going to cost him the rest of his life, he needs to be prepared for that decision. He needs to have that conversation with whoever he considers in his life, because if they are sharing the life that provides him the opportunity or her the opportunity to go out there and coach outside of where they're at, they need to explain to them the consequences of their action for being there. Hey, this, I'm getting out here, but I'm telling you, I can't push these kids like I push normal kids, because I want to come home. I don't want to change my lifestyle. I don't want to pay for the rest of my life, because even though that child, let me just bring it to reality. Even though that child died and his mother is missing him or whatever, when that lawyer comes, I'm going to say it like I want to say it. That lawyer don't give a damn about what y'all put together. A damn about what 401k that you saved for. They don't give a damn about none of that, because they feel that it's owed to the child's mother or father that lost their life behind the supervision that you was offering on that field. So I know. So let me talk to my people for a minute, because there's a responsibility we have, a responsibility that's heavier than what we see right in front of us. It's a responsibility that nobody else has. And I'm not saying that to divide. I'm saying that because it's true. As Black parents, we don't get the same margin of error as somebody else. When that police runs into that crowd and you acting all crazy and somebody else is acting crazy, they coming after you first. Instinct. You're the troublemaker. You're not the concerned parent no more. So when they come after you first and you see them not going after them, then you respond saying, "Why are you after me? She started it." They don't care. Just paint a scenario. We don't get the same grace. We don't get the same boys will be boys treatment that they give to other kids, especially when one of them is Black and one of them is white. We don't get that chance. If your child is Black and something happens with a white child, they don't treat them the same. Some of the stuff I just got to let you understand it. Let me tell you one thing. Let me help you so you can understand where I'm going with this. Let me tell you the reason why it hits me so hard. Because as I don't even know if I want to share this, but I'm going to share it anyway. I went to one of my grandson's football practices, and I looked at him on that field, and I took him this day. I took him. Not his mother. I took him. I had water. I told him, hey, grandson, put on some clothes, because there's some mosquitoes out there. It's going to get hot out there. And I didn't want him to get bit by a mosquito, so I took him. He get out there and he working out. He running. My grandson running circles around everybody else that's out there. Those fat kids that I'm telling you about, that I seen that was having a problem, and I seen that other coach jumping on them left and right and making them appear. It's just a matter of time as I sit there and I watch that. And I say to myself, if we don't say nothing to Black people, we're defeating the purpose of us being Black. But anyway, my grandson got out there. He has asthma, chronic asthma. He's just starting to get to a point where he's got the right medicine that's helping him. He still has to take his inhaler. But I let him go out there and being a grandfather, I didn't bring his extra inhaler. The first time he came to me, he said, Granddad, he got some water. I said, Jizzle, drink some more water. He said, Granddad, I'm good. He went back out on that field. And he came back off on that second practice. He said, Granddad, I want some water. I saw it in his face. He was exhausted. He still went back out on that field, but the next time he came out, he wasn't running. He was walking to me and he looked at me, and I knew based on my experience of dealing with him and my oldest son with asthma, I knew where he was. See, but that coach didn't know that he had asthma. So he had to come off the field. I had to get him in my truck, constantly talk to him on the way home till he got to his medicine because Granddad didn't know. Just letting you know that when I feel that emotion and you see me leaning in and you see me trying to emphasize on certain parts of these stories, I'm telling you from experience, family. I'm not telling you from something that somebody else is just throwing stuff out there. I'm telling you from my own experience. The sports world, let me get back. The sports world loves our kids. NBA loves our kids. NFL loves our kids. College recruiters love our kids. But let me tell you something. After all of that, that child still has to leave that field that is stacked against them. Even though they play in NFL football or basketball or they play in college sports, not everybody with the controllers on that field. Let that sink in for a minute. The owners, majority of them are what color? The only thing they see is a piece of meat in an NFL or NBA. Either you do it or you don't. We ain't gonna pay you for it. And if you do something wrong, you're not the same, you know. I told you about boys being boys. You're not gonna get the same treatment as somebody else. Or let me break it down to you a little bit further. A person way down the line that's not a quarterback or a starter ain't gonna be treated the same. Let that sink in. And that's not paranormal. Paranormal. I want to say it. Paranormal. The word is paranormal, not paranormal. What is it? When you're scared and you just know something's gonna happen and you just paranoid. That's the word. I don't want you to be that way, but I want you to know it in the back of your mind that you have to live by different rules. You have to engage by different rules. You have to pull back sometime in order for you to go forward. And that's the reality. Because the moment something goes wrong, the moment emotions get high, the moment a situation escalates, and you heard me say this earlier, I'm going to say it again. The police are not coming to understand. They're coming to maintain peace. But I'm real good at doing this. I love this, what I do. And I got a friend by the name of Baron. He does our Tuesday show with me with Pastor Riggins. And you know what he says? And I'm going to tie this all up in a pretty knot for you so you can kind of understand. Because after you get off that field and the police take you to wherever they're going, they take your kids to wherever they're going, and they take this young black man that stabbed another man under a tent to wherever they're going. The real truth of the matter is the judge, the jury pool, you may enter next. Don't look like you. You know why? We said it. You're more concerned about getting out of jury duty. You're talking to people like Barron to go down and explain why you shouldn't do jury duty. You're not part of the pool. You're participating. It's like registering to vote and not voting. So when you get in that system after you did all that you can do, remember that the people that's making a decision on your life don't look like you. That's not an opinion. That's not theory. That's a system that's already there. Black people. Black people. Black people. So as Black parents, we have to do a better job, not because we're worse than anybody else, but because consequences hit us harder than anybody else. We have to teach our kids how to walk away, how to de-escalate, how to breathe before reacting, how to protect their future and not their pride. How to understand that every choice that they make has a choice. Because the moment of anger, I'm going to say these words till I get out of here, and I'll do this next podcast. The moments of anger and a moment of impulse and a moment of ego can change an entire life, change an entire family situation based on anger, impulse, and ego. And most of all, we do carry that burden to establish a place where somebody can come behind us and use the same tools that was put in place to get our kids there, to get other kids there. And I'm going to tie this to a story because I need to do this before I get out of here. Let me see how much time I got. I got a little bit of time left. NBA guys are starting to say that the NBA is changing its dynamics. They're saying they're going to a whiter culture of people in the NBA. You know why? You know why? I told you I'm going to step on some toes because we don't treat our sports the same way. And those guys are not half as good as some of our guys. But you know what they treat it as? A sport. A job. I'm going home. My paycheck is bigger than anybody else in my family has ever been. This is a privilege. But yet, what's the three words? Anger, impulse, and ego takes away all of that. We need to teach our kids to understand that. Not because they're bad kids, not because they're Black only, not because they're violent kids, not because they're reckless, but because the world they're stepping into does not forgive them the way others forgive us. Let me say this, because some things you just got to repeat because it's so important. Because the world they're stepping into does not forgive them the way it forgives others. And if we don't teach responsibility early, the world will teach it later. And the world teaches consequences, not compassion. This is a responsibility we keep avoiding. This is a responsibility no one wants to own. But if we don't own it, we're going to keep losing our kids to the moments that should have never happened. It's almost like, and I got to say this, I'm going to take this time to say this. It's almost like I was telling Pastor Riggins last night when we were talking. He was telling me about how we should have never got in the Iran deal, and how we should have never been in Iran, how we should have never went over there in the first place. And this was about concentrating on the files of Epstein file. Let me look at this camera. I'm gonna lean in and tell you something. I don't give a damn about none of that. If we don't get those nuclear weapons out of those people's hands, everybody in this whole world gonna suffer because of a dumb mistake made by a dumb person to even go into the country. I don't disagree with that part. But if they continue and they produce a nuclear weapon, it will make it to here. What do you think that? What do you think that dust that comes to Houston or that they tell you, give you a weather caution about if you got asthma, any type of breathing conditions or anything? Do you think that just that dust can travel from that distance, or do you think that if they explode a nuclear weapon over there, that some of that is coming back over here to the United States? So excuse me if I don't give a damn about Epstein files. Excuse me if I don't give a damn about what's going on over there. I don't care about how much money they give. I don't. Because the consequences of those people's actions, and nobody over there is in control right now. And you say, well, how does this tie in? It ties in because what did we just get through talking about? The consequences of your actions. Anyway, I want to get here. I'm gonna get out of here with this. Let me just get out of here with this, and those other things is going to be a story for another day. I'm going to talk to black people. Every one of these stories, from Mikey Williams to Karmelo Anthony, from Mesa to Staten Island, from Central Valley to Baytown, Texas, they all point to the same truth. Kids are watching us. Kids are learning from us. Kids are becoming us. And if we don't change the way we show up, if we don't change the model of responsibility, if we don't teach accountability, then we're not preparing them for life. And that's what, let me just say this. That's what that jury and that judge is going to prepare them for, is life that don't look like us, because we don't volunteer for jury duties. We don't vote in. I'm done, but that's the consequences for settling. This is a responsibility no one wants to own, but it's a responsibility we can't run from anymore, because it's the future, which is our kids, are watching. And the future, which is our kids, is learning from us. And because the future is becoming exactly what we show them, we can't continue to allow this to happen. Somebody needs to tell you. Let me just add a few more things, because this was something I do a lot of searching and researching of my stuff that I do on the podcast, because I don't want to put out information that I can't back up with fact, or that you go back later and say, hey, you know, let me just read this real quick and I'm gonna get out of here. But the consequences don't begin in the courtroom. They begin at home. They begin on the sidelines. It begins in the stands. They begin in the examples adults set every day. And when those consequences finally reach a courtroom, we cannot ignore another truth. If we refuse to participate in the justice system through jury service, we leave our kids to be judged by people who may not understand their experiences, their communities, their lives. Responsibility doesn't start with a verdict. The responsibility starts long before then. And that wasn't even a human that was saying that. This was an entity that can't pick up a baseball, never will play football, but could watch, never will get out there and do any of that. Never will physically breathe. It doesn't matter what they're doing. And if you put enough into a computer, if you put enough into a GPT, that's what they came out with. That last little bit that I read you came out of Chat GPT. Don't never have a kid. Think about it. That's the reason why I do these shows, because I can sit in my space, and help you in your space. And I just call it sit in your space. So if you're listening to me, if you're paying attention to what I'm saying right now, sitting in your space. If you got a cousin, a nephew, a child of your own, a young man, a young girl out there trying to be somebody, and you see the struggle that they're making, tell them about the consequences of their actions. Please share it with them. It's just that important, especially if they're Black. Just want to tell you, especially if they're Black. Help them help themselves. And let them know that it ain't all about that. And if their ego and their emotion is not controllable, you might have to make a hard decision too. Because their decision that they make in that impulse moment is going to cost you too. So I put it out there. I hope I didn't waste too much of your time. I hope I made some good points for you to think about, or have a conversation with somebody that you love, that's dear to you, that have kids participating in sports. But as Black people, we need to educate ourselves. And it was another part that I got passionate about on there, and I'm going to do a show on that too. Coaching. It ain't all it's cut out to be when that child passes away. Because it's nobody between you. It's not even a school system, because it wasn't mandatory that you be out there. You volunteered. And I can guarantee you that somewhere, somebody's got you on videotape of those boys working out. Thinking that it's good tape for them to share with their kid. And they say share it with their kid, and the lawyer comes around and say, hey, does anybody have any tape of how this guy was training these kids and what he put them through? The tape is there. So your actions that you run away from, that you could get away with years ago when you was playing, the same no more. With that being said, I just want to say thank you for listening in. Thank you if you're still sitting out there. I hope I shared some stories with you to help you think as Black people. And that story that I told at the beginning was a true story. Just when you think that your life is in turmoil, just when you think that you can't go another day, just when you think you're at the edge of whatever you're at, look in that mirror and say, I'm still standing, because I know the story that he shared with me at the beginning of this podcast. Y'all take care. I enjoy these moments, and man, I can't wait to get to something else, because I got to get to that part about these coaches. I got some comments out there before I go. Let me just get this. Somebody's telling me, hi, sir. I don't know who it is. Keisha, I saw you. I'm going to add the comment to the stage. Keisha, hi, in the house. I don't know who you are. I'm glad you're here. Sir, who are you talking to? Ain't nobody here watching you. You just sitting, talking to yourself. I'm not going to run from a comment, but I will tell you this. I might be sitting here talking to myself, but the world knows about Mr. Williams. and they know about Mr. Anthony. And one thing about this digital media, it repeats itself. Remember that. So Keisha, I don't know who you are, but I'm sorry. Somebody said I can only see one gent and the title says two gents. You might look behind me and realize that this is sitting in your space. You might look behind me and see that this is just real talk. You may look behind me and realize that you're not black. I'm just saying, you may realize that I've been here for a while. I know when I'm being trolled. I know when somebody's trying to take away from the message that's being given to a people that has suffered. So I'm going to let you get your questions in. I'm not going to run away from them. I never have. I don't have to run away from them now. Can I guess your age? Can you spell? I would say 54. Am I close? No, you're not close. But let me share something with you. Doesn't matter my age. When you show up in those courtrooms, it ain't gonna matter my age. It's gonna matter to you. And maybe the conversation is not for you. So I might want to encourage you. Let me get out of the way so you can understand. This conversation is real talk for Black people. You may not understand what we go through, and it doesn't have anything to do with age. If we observe more than we get out there and do, we could save a people. Maybe your people are already saved. I don't know. But I ain't going to get on another show that's trying to help Black people get ahead and criticize what they're doing. I'm not going to do that. I don't have time for that. And to let you know the truth, all this gray that you see here and on the top up here, it's because I done been through some things that maybe you haven't, or I've seen some things that maybe you haven't, depending on your race. You might be on the privileged side. I'm not going to sit here and cuss you out. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to tell you anything against yourself, against what you're saying, but I'm going to answer your questions like I should be. And if you look on my left hand, I guess it's your right because you're looking at the tape. Freedom is yours. Dr. Martin Luther King, we demand voting rights. And yeah, this is on Two Gents Podcast. It's on Two Gents Podcast. It's on Just Real People Talking. It's on Ronald Spikes. It's on Blog Talk USA. We had Blog Talk for almost 10 years before we even got to this. Anyway, thank you for paying attention. At least I know one person is listening out there. And I hope I answer your questions. But Black people, sit in your space. Sit in your space and observe what could happen and the consequences. Y'all take care. I really enjoyed it. I'm out of here this time. Thank you, Key Share, for listening in. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.